What's up? Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Friday session. Excited to see you all here. This is episode number 4, which means we've been doing this, I think, 3 or 4 weeks in a row now, which is great. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces here, folks that have kept up the habit of showing up for these sessions for nearly a month now. So, kudos to you. We're going to get into tonight's session with a lot more learning, but let me see who's in the chat today. Let's start here. What's up, Ashwini? Welcome to the cohort, Ashwini, by the way. What's up, Ninad? What's up, Sahil? Rupak? Hello, bro. What's up? Folks, today we're going to be checking out a bunch of case studies. These are portfolio reviews. We're going to be going through some of these case studies from cohort 7. And let me just get on our co-host for this session, Janil. What's up, Janil?
Stoked, man. It's going to be another fun set of case studies to review. So really looking forward to that.
Awesome. In the chat, let's go. Are we ready to get started?
Suraj, are you excited? I see you in the chat. Thank you for joining.
Okay. So let's get started. Janil, today we're going to be reviewing a bunch of case studies. I'm going to start with the first one, and let's just go through it. Overall, those of you who are here, who've recently joined the cohort, a big welcome to you. I'm so glad that we were able to build up that habit of joining for these sessions even before the cohort has started. Um, you're going to have a lot of sessions like this in the cohort and going to be even deeper. One of the advantages of being live in a session with us in a cohort is that it's real time. This, of course, it's on YouTube. There's a lag, and it's not so participatory as it could be. But for those of you who have joined, I'm really excited to share that experience with you once we start on Jan 20th. That's our start date. For everybody else here, if you're considering enrolling in the cohort, you have a final couple of weeks left. We're planning to close the applications before Christmas, or maybe just exactly on the day of Christmas. So we have some time to start prepping and everything. So if you're interested in that, check it out. I don't think I need to mention it. 10K designers in the description. And now let's jump in. What do we have here? All right. Let me get Janila on here. All right, let's jump in. The first one is actually not that. We're going to start with this one by Grusha. And you know what? Let's get started. Jenny, do you remember we reviewed this one? I think in one of our um, reviews, the design reviews during the cohort.
Yeah, and actually, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So you got the right one, yeah. And what I love about this case study is like, let's look at the first line, like the first few lines. It hit me so hard because I personally face this problem, and the fact that she's talking about a problem that she's personally resonating with, it always gets me excited. Like
Mm,
the designer is actually experiencing the problem as well, rather than just finding problems. So I really love that.
mm. Yeah, started with a story, which is always an engaging way to start.
And as soon as you land, like, I think what she has done a really good job of, she's expanded the entire, like, I think this is the feedback you gave in the previous session, which is if you have a cover image expanded all the way across the width, so as soon as you land and you kind of scroll through, I saw that you saw that whole banner image, and
Mm,
then I see that, okay, your skin matters. So immediately I know as a viewer that, okay, it's going to be something about skincare. So I already have an idea, and it's hooked me to kind of keep on scrolling further.
mm. Yeah, I like this effect, the overlap effect thing right here. Okay, let's check out this teaser. I don't think I watched this. Okay, I think we'll walk through. But it's nice that you have a walkthrough here for people who just want to check out the whole thing at a glance. I think this kind of thing, it's getting way more common. And my tip to all of you here who are also considering something like this, my very straightforward tip that I'll give you all is today, 2023, leading into 2024. There's a lot of people who've never been on camera at all, ever. Really. Like that is the equivalent of saying, नहीं मैंने कभी internet try नहीं किया है. Right? It's really mind bending if you really think about it, how much in the future we are, where the primary way we see other humans is actually on a screen now. Again, not true for the whole world, but it's true for us. All right. And so when it comes to things like hiring, finding teams that you want to work for, finding collaborators, finding freelancers, the game is on this screen. So getting comfortable with camera, it's not no longer a, oh, I want to become a YouTuber or I want to become a personality. It's like normal. It's like writing on the internet. It's just as straightforward. So if you've never been on camera, that's something I really want you to change as early as possible. Right? It's really important today. I cannot stress it even. I can't stress it enough. It's super important. But yeah, nice to do this.
And then
A
I think
quick
what
note.
Grusha, she brings out
Yeah,
a
yeah.
personality in
Hmm,
this. So like when we watch this teaser, right? She's done a phenomenal job. Like in the short video, she's actually walked through all the different sections of the video, saying that this is why I designed the landing page like this. This was my thinking behind it. So if someone is looking to hire and they're watching this video, they actually get a sense of her personality, her thinking. So this is why getting comfortable, and you don't have to get it right in the first try. Like you can actually sit down, figure out what you want to say, and then in a couple of iterations get this video nailed down. But what I like about the way she's approached is that she's catering to different types of people. So if
Mhm.
you want to watch the video, in that video she'll explain a lot of the stuff that she's also explaining in the text right below. So if you don't want to watch the video, she's also got the text version of it, which you can read through and skim through. So whenever you're designing a case study, make sure that you're catering to everyone. You're catering for someone who wants to actually go in depth, watch your videos. You also have the text version. So if someone wants to skim through and they cannot play the video, then also they're able to understand why you're approaching your design from a specific perspective.
Yeah. And folks, it's not, the point here is not that, oh fuck, it's so difficult to do it or something. Let's just zoom back for a sec, right? The purpose, the desired outcome of you putting this long form work out there is to show that you are competent as a designer and you would be work well in teams. You would, do well in freelance projects. That you are somebody who, like, you are trying to get people to reach out for projects, right? If you had to put the goal in a very simple way, a big part of that is personality, as Janil mentioned. So, if I am hiring someone, typically I have to wait till the interview to find out what do they like in person, right? But if you do have a good personality, it can really increase your odds. If you're good at speaking, if you're just like, if that's a skill you've practiced, definitely include it here. It probably increases your click through rate if you have it. Probably. Hmm. And by the way, Janil, let me know anytime. We can get Grusha on and, we can have a conversation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get her on in a couple of minutes. Okay. Mm. Personas. Okay, let's. So there is a. So from the personas, I can see it is for women. Number one. Uh, this is somebody who is a working professional, and this is somebody who is, I guess, also a working professional, but juggling work and family life. Mm. See, I'm not sure whether. Okay. Yeah, I'm not so sure about the personas. Um, okay, so my question here, something that just came to me is, Jenny, while you were going through this, does it seem like these are the personas it's designed for? Like, are we talking about specifically to this persona that the website's been
I
designed
didn't
for?
feel like that because when I saw individuals aged 20 years and above, so immediately in my mind, I was like, shouldn't have the persona images been folks in that age group or something like that?
Mm,
Um, so it just doesn't resonate hard with me. Um, and then the names as well. So I felt like just naming them and the images chosen could have been better. Kind
hmm.
of hit home.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the persona. I just don't think it's so useful. But again, that's just my impression right now. But anyway, for folks who are watching this, you might be thinking, should I include personas, right? If that's the question on your mind. My suggestion is understand why personas are used. And if you have a good use for it, talk about it, right? So, based on at least what I can see here, Grusha has chosen a European target audience. Like, that is a design decision that she's made, that I'm going to be designing it for these people. And so I think the persona kind of makes sense. But again, at the same time, the fear that I have seen some people have is that if I don't include persona, it's wrong. Or if I include persona, it's right? There's no right or wrong in that way. This is your case study. This is your process that you're talking about. If you've done something, you should be able to say why you did it. If you just did things randomly, that's usually not a good sign, right? You need to be able to back it up with a little bit about why. And the keyword here is why. Because when we're talking about this in an interview process, usually there's a lot of why questions to understand the let's just say the process that led up to this. Okay, right? Some ideation. ChatGPT. Question to you, Janil. Um, what's your read right now on how much people should talk about the ChatGPT thing? Given that we're not too early. It's been a year since ChatGPT has been out. Yet, I don't think most people in the world fully using it. What's your take on that?
I think in Grusha's case, when she mentioned it that I use Chat GPT as my creative partner, when someone phrases it like that and shows examples of prompts of how they're leveraging it, I think that's a good use case because what it's doing is you're saying that, look, I'm able to leverage these creative AI tools to speed up the process,
Hmm.
right? To better help me get to the final goal. And as long as it's done in a way to expedite the process or to improve the process, I think it's fair game. But I think the issue is when if the whole thing is copy pasted with Chat GPT, I think that's when the it becomes an issue.
Hmm. Yeah. My suggestion to folks would be if you have used it, talk about talk about using it for sure, especially if it's helped you in a significant way. I don't really consider it cheating of any sort because you would have had to do this work anyways. And if you are saving time and increasing the quality of your output just by using a tool, like that's a net positive.
And I'll give you an
Yeah.
example of something like Chat GPT, like AI being done at scale. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
seen on LinkedIn recently, but they have LinkedIn as AI powered pages, like on
Okay.
UX
No, I've
design
not
and
seen
stuff.
this.
And what's happening is what they're doing is they're doing a hybrid approach. So
Hmm.
they're data and creating like articles on what is UX design, for example. But then they're getting designers like you and me and everyone to contribute to those articles to improve them, and you get a badge for that.
Interesting.
So, this thing is being done at scale. So I think the combination of Chat GPT and AI tools like Midjourney, along with the designer's creative input, I think that's what makes a potent combo. It's not one or the other
True.
by itself.
True. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Um, there's no guarantee that using ChatGPT will help you, or that you will be able to figure out how to use it. So even just integrating ChatGPT is not an easy thing. And if you have done it, I would say definitely talk about it. Yeah.
I think I would want to get Grusha and ask her, like the fact that she's leveraged Chat GPT as a creative partner. I wonder how much that saved her time. Like back in
Hmm.
the day before Chat GPT, you had to Google like what is it like 10, 15 different articles on Google, figure out which one is the best, which one gives
Yeah.
you the right tips, and then you have to read that. Versus in Chat GPT, you can just say, "Help me structure the case study," and what is it?
Hmm.
Couple of seconds, you've got the answer.
Yeah. Let's get her on. Let's get her on and let's talk a little bit about it. What's up, Grusha? How are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you guys? It feels, first of all, it feels blessed, amazing to share the same screen again. Big time
Yeah. Been a
nostalgia.
long time.
Yeah,
Been a
indeed.
long time since the cohort, but also since the event. Yeah.
Since the
It's a
event,
grad
right?
party.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, Grusha,
So,
can you tell us
ChatGPT.
more? Can you tell us more about your use in AI in the design process?
I think earlier when only pen and paper were our tools where we can explore our ideations was like it was a much slower process, and now ChatGPT it has eased up um, on our communication with people or finding the right target audiences and understanding about any parts of the world. ChatGPT can answer all of us. Like I took
Hmm.
an European market as my target audience, so it was very difficult for me to connect with the Europeans to understand what the skincare and how are their pain points. But ChatGPT was my tool who can connect me with anybody all over the world.
Hmm.
So it's a big time my friend, my partner, everything, because I think I write help him. I had taken help from saying the speech right now, whatever that I prepped, and maybe writing emails and etc. So AI is just, I think, in the coming future, nothing can be done
Hmm.
without the AI, without the use of the AI. And it makes sense when you said that should we put it out there in the case study or not. So I'm also exploring it a bit. But now that everybody knows that everybody is using ChatGPT, I don't think so. It's that big of a problem if you would put it out there that yes, we did take help from it.
Hmm. True. Yeah, I like that
You
you
did a really good
outside.
job of introducing the persona.
Yeah, go on.
This video clip of the AI persona. A very nice
Yeah.
touch.
Yeah, just gonna say the same thing. It's not just ChatGPT, but there are a lot of other tools out there. And so, my suggestion to folks would be, I know you've probably seen a lot of new tools pop up, and you're like, oh, one day I'll try it out, or yeah, eventually I'll get to that, or that's cool, let's bookmark it. Usually, projects like this can be an interesting way to maybe explore those tools. However, you kind of got to be careful, right? Again, most of these projects are time bound, so you don't have infinite time to check out a ton of tools. But this is a nice way to, really use it for a real use case. So, for example, the tool used for this DID, I've heard about it, used it once or twice, but never really used it for a real project. But I like that you took that opportunity, Grusha, to just kind of create a feature around that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another kudos is that in the article, as we go down, in the case study, you mentioned 30 different iterations. I really like it when folks mention how many iterations they've gone through, because it kind of gives a sneak peek behind how you went through the whole thing. So talk to me that. What was that iteration process like from the first one to the 30th one?
So the first one was probably whatever I had in my head. It was just a visual thing out there without any thought processes behind it. But then eventually, when I started to speak with my folks and exploring deeper, so there was not any specific process that I followed. I just did the first iteration, then I went back to the research, then I reiterated the research, some more wireframes on paper, then usability testing, making people folks use if this works out or not, then V1, V2, V3, V4, etc., etc.
Hmm.
Was there any emotional connection, or like, hey, like I really love version 4, and how did you just let go? Like, you know what, maybe version 4 is not the best, go and try a different version.
Yes, absolutely.
Because a lot of times I feel like, um, like creative people will like find one version and they just get stuck on it, and there's not enough iterations. But I feel like when I look at your example, like, how you're explaining in the video and even in the thumbnail, that for the main cover image, right, you have like this really like popping font. I really love that font, by the way. You've done a really good job on that font. It really attracts the eye attention. And then you have the before and after that shows how
Yeah.
you've improved along the
Right.
way. Like even in this one, I can see in the left and the right how you've like expanded the size of certain banner images, how you made certain things stand out. It's a really good job on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny.
A quick note to folks who are watching this. I think one of the challenges most people face is, given that a case study is a long form piece of content, creating a structure can be difficult because, well, while creating the structure, you have to think about things like, what's the best way to showcase this? What should the headings be? How deep or how shallow should I stay? It's very difficult to talk about every single thing that you did, especially given that it's a 2 week project that you spend time on, and you need to somewhat compress that into less than maybe 10 minutes of a read. So overall, I like this format. This is I think, a classic format that folks can try, which is talk about your sections one by one, especially given that this is a website. If it was an app, maybe it would be a good idea to talk about flows one at a time. But yeah, question for you, Grusha. Was ChatGPT helpful in maybe like the meta here, which is like even structuring the case study or feedback and all of that, or not so much?
Absolutely. Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I think one
So one,
area I would suggest for feedback, just something like I think you could do more, is you've shown the before and after, right? Like the initial draft and the final version. I would have loved to see like maybe some one or two like design decisions that you improved along the way. Like specifically, like, hey, in the initial version, I thought using this font or this color would have been good, but then the final version, I decided not to, because see, the thing is, through this case study you want to uncover, you want to like basically make this invisible magic that you have done visible to everyone. So I think by explaining some of those design decisions that maybe you took, maybe something you discarded, right, but why did you do that from version 1 to version 30, more of that?
Uh,
Because you've already
That's
put
a
in the
great.
work, so might as well make it visible.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great suggestion. I'll incorporate that.
My question to you, Grusha, now having done this, it's been I think few weeks, few months since you probably put this out. What is looking at this now? Is there something you're like, oh, I would do that differently? Something that comes to your mind?
Oh my God, big time, yes. So
Yeah. What are
this
some of
was
the
my
big
first
ones?
case study. Like literally the first case study, the first assignment that you gave us to make and build it out in a case study. Now I going deeper in the within the cohort also we learned so many more frameworks and so many more UX laws. And I when I was going through before this video before this live session, I was like, oh my God, I haven't even incorporated any UX point of views in this case study. It's just all visual. So that is what I think I can really do so much better in terms of writing and framing it out better.
Hmm.
Adding better, I think better usage of words and the terms for explaining the design decisions. What just Janil mentioned,
Mm.
it can be a lot better.
My suggestion though is don't rework this. Keep it as it
Yeah,
is. Carry it
yeah,
forward to your next project. That's my suggestion
absolutely.
to folks. I think one common mistake I see sometimes is people keep iterating the same thing, right? This is
Yeah.
the opposite view of it, where people iterate too much. And
Hmm.
what it stops people from is actually reaching that mental satisfaction of, oh, I completed something, right? And so you're always stuck in that incomplete loop. My suggestion, Grusha, this is nice case study, but definitely don't change this any further. Don't work on it any further. Carry it forward to the next project. Yeah.
Right.
And the
So
reason
one
is
question.
that you've got the learning from this. You've got the learning that
Yeah.
you needed to do, but now you need a fresh canvas, a blank canvas to like implement all of that. And
Mhm.
if you try to go back and rework this, there's like some limitations, right? How much you can rework, right?
Yeah.
So
Right. One question. Shall if I'm willing to make any more case studies for my further projects, should I choose Behance as a visual representation, or should I choose Medium?
While writing this, what did you feel like? Were you initially leaning towards Behance for this case study?
No, this one I wanted to. No, for this one I did not. But the rest of my case studies, I've put them on Behance.
Mm.
So no such decision. No, I mean I've written most of the context there, like
Yeah.
my design decisions, etc. But what is your suggestion?
Personally, I would say both are okay. Like, I don't know if there are advantages that the platforms offer as such. It just typically Medium um, allows you to talk more about your work. Usually in Behance, um, I don't know. I've never really read a Behance case study, or maybe people don't really do it. I usually just
it's not
look
a
and
thing.
observe and like kind of look at the details. I don't really sit down to read a case study. So I think it's a little bit like both do work. And, as long as your work is good, both will look great on your portfolio. But I think it's more about, do you want to be more visual or more talk about your work? I mean, you can be both in both places, but typically I've seen Medium is um, l- more talking about it. Behance is more visual. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Right.
say if you have a time constraint, prioritize the medium one first, because then what you can do is you can pull the best parts from it, like maybe some visuals, some font selection and stuff, and put it on Behance. The other thing is it makes it easier. Like it's like a thing. Like most designers, if you've seen from established to aspiring designers, it's like a trend. It's like a pattern. They publish their case studies on Medium. And another reason why I recommend Medium is there is a social network effect of the platform. Like on Behance, like you put your work out there and you're hoping that it gets discovered. But on Medium, what you could do is once you publish your case study, you could once you write your case study, you can publish it in a publication with hundreds of thousands of followers.
Yeah.
So then that gets extra eyes to the work you have done. So that's another big
Yeah.
advantage of, like, in my opinion, prioritizing Medium first if you're short
Mhm.
on time.
Yeah. Makes
But
sense.
my suggestion to everybody who's in a similar state of confusion would be, honestly, it doesn't matter. What's more important is it's visible, right? You can make a Behance case study. Like, for example, I know people who made a Medium case study, but they never shared their link, they never tweeted it, they never posted it on their LinkedIn. And so by default, the reach was low. And so Medium didn't recommend it to people either. And then it got low claps. And then it's like you're not really trying your 100%, right? So with these platforms, I would say whatever you pick, just go all 100% in it. In the end, I've seen a lot of people get hired purely based on slides as well, right? You just have a slide deck, and this does as good of a job as talking about it as much as a Medium or a Behance would. Some people, in fact, have taken their slide decks and directly uploaded it slide by slide to Behance. But I would say there's no rules here as long as your communication is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jenny, let's wrap this one up. Great job, Grusha, and looking forward to seeing your learnings rolled over into the next one.
Yeah. Just a closing statement. Folks who've joined C8, guys, best decision ever. Best decision ever. I also want to announce that I have been found my first product design gig within just 1 month of the cohort, and nothing can beat the
Oh,
happiness that I
nice.
feel. Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you, Janil. Thank you so much, guys.
For sure. Very happy
Thank,
to hear that.
thank you.
All
Okay.
right.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
Grusha.
Thank you. Bye.
Folks, with that, we're one case study down, and you know what that means. Janil, uh,
Oh, you got the music lined up this time?
all right. I need a longer version of that. Hold on. Hold up.
I love it, man. It's such high quality audio track.
So, folks, what we're going to do, we're going to do our first quiz question. All right. Loading it up here. Hoping we don't get copyright. So, folks, our first question, okay? I'm having a little difficulty pulling this up. I'm using FigJam. And you know what happens when I use FigJam? There are these weird
While
issues
live streaming.
on live stream, that too. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to browse the chat for a bit as I load this up. Janil, we can highlight some chats. We can talk about any questions there, by the way, folks that might have. We can answer those. Meanwhile, I'm just going to take a second and pull this up.
Folks, if you have any questions, feel free to post in the chat in the meantime, and we'll keep an eye out. Another thing that some of you might have noticed is that when Grusha was presenting, there were other folks from the cohort as well there. And that's one of the main things that I love about like just being part of any kind of cohort based course or like a community when you're learning is like going individually on a journey sometimes gets really lonely. You don't have anyone to talk to. So the camaraderie that you get being part of group is just mind blowing. So if you have a friend or someone, anyone that you can kind of like also into design, also doing similar stuff, it's always good to partner up. Find someone like that.
All right. Folks, hope you're ready because we're about to get into our first quiz question. And, we always start with an easy one. So I'm hoping you guys get this. But, all right, let's get into here. Our very, very first question is, this Danish company is famous for its interlocking bricks, and it's kind of become this symbol for imaginative play and creative design. Who am I talking about? I'm based in Copenhagen, by the way, Denmark, and this is one of Denmark's most famous companies. That's the other hint there. Who's going to get this? Let's jump to chat. All right. What's it going to be? Who got this? It's an easy one. Easy one, folks. The answer here. Who got this? Dhananjay coming in with the answer. Yeah, the answer is Lego. That's the first one. Dhananjay, I think you have. You're really good at quizzes, by the way, Dhananjay. But I think you're going to win a T-shirt. So, folks, those of you who win a quiz or have won a quiz before, follow up with Hardik. Your T-shirts are about to be shipped out. But for this one, I'm going to let Hardik decide who the winner is. It does seem like Dhananjay got this first. Anmol here as well. Hurry. But let's see. All right. I'm going to let Hardik decide the winners. All right. Let's jump back in here. Case study number 2.
Do you want to answer like maybe one or two questions before we jump to the next case study?
Yeah, sure. I see a few questions here. Sahil says, looking forward to join C8. What's the schedule? Does it happen on weekdays? Weekdays? How does weekends? Weekdays? How's the schedule? We have 3 core sessions in a week: Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. My suggestion to you: check out our website if you've not already. They should answer most questions that you have around it. Otherwise, also feel free to reach out to us, to alumni. But overall, to answer your question, it is about a commitment of, especially if you're joining into this with the goal of becoming a designer. My suggestion is you have at least 10 hours a week to dedicate to it, whether you do that weekends, whether you do that like there is a part of this which is your own time, which is working on assignments that you have, working on projects exactly like the one we're reviewing today. But outside of that, the core sessions where we have our activities, where you meet other people, where you can interact with us, where we teach the core curriculum, those happens on Wednesday and Saturdays at 7 p.m. IST, about 2 hours each. We also have guest sessions that happen every Friday, and this happens for a total duration of 16 weeks. So check it out. The website should have most answers around this. And of course, there's a few people from the cohort in the chats. So if you have any questions around it, you can also feel free to post it in the chat. Hopefully, somebody here from the cohort can answer those for you. All right. Janil, I'm excited about our next one here. Let me hide this. This is by Manisha. It's an app for rental of workout equipment. Okay. Just gonna go through this a little bit.
I think again, this is another example of good usage of the entire width when creating that banner image for the project. Because as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, I know this is definitely fitness related. And being into fitness, I just got really excited. Like, okay, I want to go through in detail.
I just noticed something weird. Medium, there's no medium heading here. Like usually medium has a heading for the article, right? This is missing an H1. Odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Odd.
So that's an area for improvement. Manisha, that you can just have a title as well. I think she just jumped directly into the project brief after that banner image because I think she has a title in the image itself.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing here starts with talking about the design process. It's different from the previous one in the sense that what I liked about the previous one is it kind of started with that personal story, where this one gets straight into these terms. I would have liked a little bit more of a story thing, but I guess it's here.
Just in the next section. So I think what happens is when we go to overview, she has explained the personal relationship she has with it and made it really relatable. So I think that she could have moved it up just to explain that. But I think she has that story part, a little bit of that in the overview section. And what she does a good job of is, I feel like, is she's really used the segments. Like when I look at like segment one, segment two, like these are the users she's focusing on.
Hmm.
And the fact that she is very well defined segment one, like affluent women of tier two cities, segment two, people who have corporate jobs, it tells me that Manisha knows her core audience. She has put in the work to understand for whom she's designing this.
Hmm.
And to take it on steroids, when we actually look at the personas and we go down, look at all these quotes. Like I love it when
I like
a
these. Yeah.
designer actually puts in quotes.
Hmm. Yeah, I think these kind of quotes are a really nice way to show some of your insights from the research that you've done, like conversations that you've had. Because usually people do this in the third person, like after I did this, these were the insights, or not a person, like just external. Versus here, talking about first person views, which is Bhavna is directly talking about what she said. I think that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, definitely like that. A note to people who are watching this, right? I see some questions around case studies. A question, uh, a question I've seen quite often, maybe not here today, but typically, is is there a standard format for case studies, given that a lot of case studies do start with this type of stuff, right? And I think this is a question I've answered before, but anyway, I'll give a short version of it here, which is usually the insight here. The reason you see most case studies start this way is any design project, typically when you start out, is divergent, right? Like there are explorations that happen where you don't exactly know what the product is going to be, right? Normally, when we start a product, we don't have a full picture of what it's going to look like, right? It's an exploratory thing that you do beginning. So these are some ways you can kind of help you create that track, which is this is who I'm designing for, this is how I'm doing it. And these kind of activities where you're trying to figure out and exactly define what it is, definitely useful in that part of the process. However, I'm not a big fan of personas. Like, I'll just be honest. Usually, it's very rare for me to see personas where I'm like, oh, wow, like that brings clarity. Like, oh, I'm so glad you included this. Um, Not to say that you should not include it. If you have a good reason to, all good. But um, typically, I don't really see the purpose of that. But then it's not a bad thing because usually, like when I was, let's say, interviewing a lot of designers at an academy, I would always ask them about persona, right? So even though I don't always agree with including personas, in an interview, I always ask people, tell me more about the persona, right? Because there are some people who look at this from a very, oh, personas, I've seen it in case study. It seems like I should do it, so let's do it, which is typically the wrong way to go about it. But there are people who use this concept of a persona to really understand who it is that they're designing for. So usually when I asked questions around persona, it usually gave me a good insight into how user centered is this person. Because you will find that like at least I did find during interviews, a lot of designers spoke just about features. They're like, yeah, I want to do this feature because that's a feature, and then let's do this. Let's add this feature, that feature, right? But typically there is a moment to zoom out and say, okay, who is it that we're designing it for? Because features, yeah, you can come up with features, but then who are you coming up with these features for? Right? And sometimes it's a good idea to define that. Not always. Sometimes, you don't really need to. But these are always nice question things to talk about, conversation starters in an interview.
And then question by Viru, like if you're writing your first case study, what should you focus on? I think this is where a lot of newbies get really confused, where you're like, there's so much information out there. Should I focus on, the exact like process I want to mention in the case study? The thing at the end of the day is that everyone's unique and different. But what you want to do is leverage these case studies as a way to tell your story, right? And how you do that is up to you. But the thing is, as like for example, me and Abhinav are going through this case study, we are getting a feel like how Manisha is approaching problem solving. That's basically what we're going for, right? we're getting a sneak peek into how they're thinking. So whenever you, like for example, go to a car showroom, let's say you want to buy your car, right? I don't know, let's say you want to buy like your favorite car and you go to a dealership, you go for a test drive to get a feel, like what is this car like, how is the brake and everything. The same thing hiring managers are doing when they're actually reading your case study or skimming through it. They're getting a feel, getting a test drive, and if they like what they see, if they like what they're reading, then very high chance they'll call you for like some kind of interview or give you some design challenge or assignment to work on. So that's what we're trying to focus on.
A question for you, Janil. You know, uh,
Yes.
very common terminology that I see in case studies is how might we do this? How might we do that?
Yes.
Do you think
I think,
shouldn't it be how might I? Like, how can we provide? We can create. What's your just from a like a English perspective, from a story perspective?
yeah.
Should this be I can, or am I just reading into it too much? Um,
I think first of all, like IDEO popularizes how might we framework so much that is, first of all, as soon as you see it, you know what it is. And I think the reason they went with the V, in my understanding, is because the whole thing is a team-based effort. Even though in this case it's the individual designer, but the idea is that you're kind of working with someone, you're getting feedback from someone. So it's more of like a V and not an I.
mm,
So eventually, when you make future case studies that you worked on a big team or with other folks, then the I feels like you're not a team player. You're not someone who's good at collaborating with
interesting.
other people. So the
Yeah.
V becomes a better usage. And in Manisha's case, I like the how might we, because I've seen examples where it's forcefully put in there. Like you feel like, wait, why was it there? But in Manisha's case, she's actually done a good job of like saying, like, these are the observations. How can I convert these observations or problems into potential how might be statements and then solve according for that?
Mm, yeah. It's interesting, the how might we thing, because yeah, it is a popular framework, which is how might we do this. But I did
Yeah.
feel while reading this that, so for example, here, how can we motivate individuals? Like, that's a good way to frame the problem. But then when you
Yes.
say we've added a live stream feature, it just takes me out and I'm like, wait, you and who? Like, you took this decision,
Yeah.
right? So, anyway, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But yeah,
Yeah.
okay. The interesting, I don't know why she's done this. Maybe it'll be revealed later. But she is using these wireframe, like animated wireframes to talk about this, or is it just that it's black and white? So I'm feeling like it's a
So
wireframe.
I saw like a couple of GIFs in some places, and that's where like my suggestion for improvement here would be, if you're gonna show like in, let's say, one image, like you have like this interactive prototype right there. So then I'm expecting all the other ones to be like that, like they're gonna be like some kind of like GIF or walkthrough. But I think the other ones were static. And another thing is, whenever you're using some of these like GIFs or like video walkthroughs, when you're recording the video, there's an option to actually show your thumb or your pointer where you're clicking. So
Hmm.
try to do that, because when we look back at that video walkthrough, right there, that GIF, what is not clear is what is being clicked on as part of that. Like once you watch it one or two times, you know
True.
exactly what. But if you're gonna go this much, put in this much effort to do it, I would say try to figure out a way to capture the clicks as well. So, like for example, we
Hmm.
see this here, but then we don't know, like, wait, what was clicked again there?
You're right about that. Yeah. For me personally, I'm not a fan of the decision that was taken here to show just wireframes. Like, I know that there is a section there, later, which develops the visuals.
Hmm.
Um, but personally, I thought, might as well show your final designs here. Like, this
I know.
wasn't
Let's
too much
get her
value
on
in
and
maybe
ask her
showing the
if she's
wireframe.
here. Should we get her on and ask her?
Oh yeah,
Like,
let's do it
maybe there's
actually.
some reasoning.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay.
My guess is maybe it was like a time constraint or maybe like speed to execution. Let's see what the reason
Hey
was.
Manisha, I think you might be muted.
Hi
Hey
guys.
Manisha, how's it going?
Going good. How are you guys?
Good, good.
Doing good. So, curious to know when you were creating these video walkthroughs or creating these GIFs, right? What made you decide to do it for the wireframes rather than the final designs?
Yeah, I actually was trying to focus more on the process and like what the entire approach was. Till I if you can see, I have made high fidelity wireframes, and yeah, so till like I wanted to include that because I spent a lot of time just doing that, just making high fidelity wireframe, and then like it it's a long process till the wireframe itself, right?
Mm,
So you have to like it's a lot of back and forth. You have to make sure that whatever decision you're making, whatever solutions you're finding, it ties back to the problems and your findings. So that was the entire theory behind it. And visual, yes, it is important. What font you're choosing, what colors you're choosing, and how the end product is looking. So yeah, it comparatively took lesser time and
would you
effort, I
change
would
it
say.
if you had the option to change it now? Would you go back and change it?
Of course, after your feedback, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Because personally, I do feel the visuals, like your design, it looks great here. But then
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I would have loved to see it also over here in action. Yeah.
All right. Makes sense.
And what I like is the way you explain your design decisions. Like you have a section, literally visual design, and in that visual design section, you actually use couple of sentences to explain your font decision. And we
Yeah.
have seen so many case studies where the fonts have been selected without any decision. But then here in visual design, you are like, the reason I selected the Canet font was because of its modern and clean aesthetics, right? And then you also mentioned this font embodies readability, versatility. So you're kind of like conveying that by using this font, right? I am focusing more on readability and also for conveying fitness and health related information. So I kind of really like that nice touch to it.
Thank you.
So, folks, if you're watching this, try to spend at least couple of lines. You don't have to write like paragraphs and paragraphs, but at least just like what Manisha has done, like couple of lines, like she's explained why she selected a color palette, the specific color choices, like the green one, the shade of green because it relates to fitness, right? So you want to spend some time explaining some of those decisions, like why you chose your primary color in the design, um, why you chose a specific font.
Mm. Okay, so here's the final proto though. I think this is the one with the final visuals. Yeah, cool. Manisha, question to you. Have you interviewed with this case study? Like, what's your experience been like since publishing this?
Yeah, I actually got two interviews from
Nice.
this case
Congrats.
study alone.
Hmm.
Thank
And
you. Thank you so much.
yeah, for sure. Welcome. While walking through, did you walk through this particular case study in the interview, and what was that process like? Just if I could get an idea.
I didn't get to walk them through the case study. I just shared it,
Hmm.
and they liked the work, and then they were like, "Okay, we'll schedule an interview."
Got it.
And they asked me to show some other work, which I did. So I showed it to them.
Mm. And did you dive into Figma during the interview when you talk about other work or just other case studies?
This is the only case study I have as of
Mm.
now. So I showed them the website that I made. So yeah, I just opened the Figma file and I walked them through it.
Got it. Got it. Awesome. Anything else to add, Jenny? I think I'm overall,
Yes.
yeah,
I
feedback
think
on
just
this.
one thing I want to like focus on for people who are watching, right, is what Manisha said. Like she didn't necessarily have to walk through the whole case study again, but the folks that viewed it liked it. So they called her for an interview. So essentially, what the case study is doing is it's on behalf of you, speaking for you, campaigning for you, saying that why you are the best person for this role, for this opportunity. So the reason you want to take time and explain and not just rush through your case study and explain all these small details, like, for example, selecting specific colors, going above and beyond, and adding like a video walkthrough and all this stuff, it's so that you can convince someone. You don't
Mhm.
always get an opportunity to go face to face with the hiring manager and convince why you're the best candidate.
Yeah. All right, Manisha. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you.
sharing the case study, and best of luck.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me over.
Yes, thanks. I see a question in the chat. Maybe we'll answer that question and then we jump back into our second quiz for this session. Question from Pavit, which says, she says, do you think masters in design will help us gain a better place in the UX journey? And will it help improve my package in the future? Now, the reason I'm laughing as I said that is we could talk for hours about this, given that I'm here based in Copenhagen, so Europe. Jenny's here based in Dallas, so that's the US. And all of our mentors, like our deep roots, are in the Indian ecosystem. So we definitely have a good view into it. My short version of the answer for you, Pavit, would be it's more of a lifestyle choice, in the sense that making this decision of going abroad for masters. Actually, you haven't said abroad, right? So let me talk about that. If you're planning to
Yeah.
stay in India, I think the best part about doing a master's degree in, let's say, one of an Indian institute would probably be the campus life, like being able to be with other designers on a nice campus, like separated from the industry. I think that would probably be fun. But yeah, you would have to give up the rest of your life to kind of move to that campus and like student life, pretty much. When it comes to going abroad, it's a big lifestyle choice, which is you do have to kind of give up, move abroad there. And likely if you move abroad, you're going to stay there for a while, do work, and then there's the whole cost thing. So it's a difficult topic. But I will say this: a degree alone will not give you an advantage in your UX journey. It'll definitely give you access to new paths, but there is no advantage at so it's a different path. And you get access to these paths, but the real advantage in design usually comes from actually making stuff. And that means in your internships, with teams, working at agencies, working at a company, doing freelance projects. Like, I think that is still, even till date, the best way to improve. So I would still focus there. um, Masters, going abroad, or going to college is more of a lifestyle choice. It's the environment that you create, but inherently it's not an advantage that you get. Yeah.
I think a simple way I like to look at it is like if you have a Samsung TV, right, and it's broken down, you want to repair it, right? There's a couple of options. You can get like some local electrician and have them fix it, which might be cheaper, right? But some people might be, well, I don't know if I can trust this person or not. So you might actually call Samsung, have the official technician come in, which is going to be more expensive, right? But then you kind of are like, okay, at least I trust them. So in many ways, it's lifestyle, yes, but a lot of times, at least for example, going to abroad or even in India, going to the prestigious universities for masters, right? It does add a little bit more credibility because that campus or that college or university has a brand value. So the employers will be looking at it and trusting that. So if you, for example, go to some university in the US, which is well known for its design program, and we've had a lot of 10K alumni who have done that now. So it just means that the employer who coming to that campus, they know what this university is known for. They know the curriculum. They know how they train their designers. So that's what it is. And Abhinav is not wrong. A lot of times, it's basically a ticket to enjoy a different kind of lifestyle. Like if you want to go abroad, directly getting a job sometimes is very difficult, almost extremely like impossible in some cases. So in
Unless you have
that case,
experience. Yeah.
yes, unless, and so then in that case what happens is going the master's route gives you a proven way to kind of go abroad, work in a different setting, experience like a multicultural living. That's what it is about. And I think for a lot of folks it's like, hey, I've worked in this type of setting, I worked in India, I know what it's like, but what is it like to really work in a, like for me, in my design team, I'm the one of the only Indian people on my entire, like, the project team that I'm working on. So I'm continuously collaborating with people who are from different parts of the world, right? So it's a different experience. So, for example, if you go abroad, you get to experience that.
Yeah. Tricky question though, because there's no
Yeah.
right answer. Yeah.
And it depends on your personal situation as well.
Yeah. So funny, bro. Being able to just do this, folks. I'm gonna overuse the hell out of this effect till I get
I
bored.
know
Okay.
you are having so much fun.
But let's come back here. Okay. We're gonna talk about. We're gonna present the next question to you. Okay. We've kept these not so difficult, fairly easy. Maybe googling, but then it is definitely fastest fingers first, right? Let's jump in. Our next question here is Helvetica. We all know this. It's kind of touted as the best font ever. A little overused. Used in a lot of famous applications. Who designed this? Who's the designer of the famous typeface Helvetica? Who's gonna get this? This is definitely fastest fingers first. I don't really expect somebody to know this question top of mind. I definitely didn't. But let's see. Let's see. Maybe somebody gets this. And
I think the fastest answer was test account.
wow, test account. You're doing good. Okay. The answer, test account. I think you got it right. Um, Max Meidinger and Edward Hoffman. You're right. Test account. Now this is going to be difficult, right? You're anonymous, but reach out to Hardik. We'll get you a T-shirt. Um, if we're not able to get a test account, maybe Nishank or Vishnu were second and third here. Maybe they get this. But folks, that was our second quiz for today. Let's jump back. Our third case study. We're going to be looking at designing an ancient inspired landing page for Sanskriti. This is by Swapnil.
This actually is a little bit personal because I don't know about you, but for me in school, like we had to pick either like between Hindi or Sanskrit. I ended up picking Hindi.
Mhm.
So I was always like, man, what would have been if I had picked Sanskrit? So as soon as I saw this, I was so happy.
Mm. My one feedback going into this, right, just starting off, I would probably be more direct in the title. I would say a landing page for an app that helps you learn Sanskrit. Because till this point, you've not really introduced what Sanskriti is, which is the brand name. Maybe not a big deal, but definitely worth iterating, right? I think the habit that I want all of you to have in general, instead of being right or wrong, try to say what is more right and what feels more wrong. So, what do I mean by that? Go based on your feel. So, for something like title, now this is an important part, you should have a couple of variations that you do, right? That's what iterations are all about. Come up with two or three different variations and try to say, okay, based on this is good. I like this part about it. Like, I'll tell you, it might sound like, oh, why do we need to do this? But till date, every single YouTube video, for example, that we put out, we go through this process of iteration. We're like, okay, what's the best title for YouTube? How do we say this? How do we include the key terms, like the key words that people are probably looking for as they see this, right? Even this video's title that you see here, we kind of iterated. It's very intentional, right? It's not just, let's just say what it is. So, anyway, my point being, when you're figuring stuff like this out, definitely worth iterating on these core important things. Yeah. Okay. So, it's an educational platform to learn Sanskrit, to build a strong community of Sanskrit learners. Okay.
I like the personal connection there. Like for the
Strong.
past 2 3 years, he's mentioned that he's exploring the cultural and spiritual aspects of Hinduism, which is what motivated him. So I can see that there's a whenever I see a personal story there, it tells me that the designer actually is gonna most likely go above and beyond for it.
Mm.
And they've got a small like video walkthrough of it, of the website, so that is really good.
Good idea, Swapnil, including this right up front, by the way. It's good. Okay, I want to go in here though. Okay. Typo spotted, OCD, or maybe just reading well. But Sanskriti, do you want to check that?
Yeah, in the ideation section, I also spotted that.
Yeah, I actually did spot one in the previous ones as well, but I was like, this would be too nitpicky.
Just next level, man.
Just an FYI, guys, there is a typo, Grusha. There is a typo in this, but I just didn't want to point it out. Or I rather forgot. I was going to bring it up. Okay, so your research was friends and family, ISKCON temples. One question that comes to mind, like having designed education for education, right? Like the education domain with Unacademy, even now. My question reading this was, it's for people who want to learn Sanskrit, but why do they want to learn Sanskrit, right? Usually, whenever there are courses and stuff like this, there is also some kind of outcome people have in mind. Now, it might not always be something very clear. Like from what I've read here, why do people want to learn Sanskrit? It's probably because just I want to be connected to tradition. But are there other reasons? Like that's just something that came to mind.
Actually, that's something that he's indirectly pointed at. Like he's talked to people at ISKCON temples and stuff who have an interest in learning Sanskrit, and the real reason is because they want to study the ancient scriptures. So I think if you mention that in the design, like somewhere on the page, I think it hits home.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, why do they want to learn it? Because there is a very clear answer. What you said, Jenny, bang on. I think that's the pretty much the main reason why people want to learn it, so they can dive further, learn more, read all this. But we can be direct about it, and I don't just mean in the case study, but okay. Anyway, let's see the design first. Not seen it. Okay. Typo title, title. That's really small though.
And folks, as you go through this, you might be like, "Oh, it's a small title. Kaun dekhne wala hai?" But it's as designers, the thing is, the buck stops at you. You have to be obsessed about these small things because if you don't care, there's a very high chance that your engineer or your product manager won't care at the level that which you do. So, unfortunately, as a designer, you do get judged on some of these small typos, some of these small alignment issues, because you are going to be eventually paid to care about these things.
Mm.
I think out of all the case studies I've seen, you would be very happy to see that this is a really good example of leveraging AI as a creative partner. And I like that in the visual design, he mentions upfront that he used AI tools like Bing Creator and Midjourney to generate all these like nice images of Gurukul and a guru and the disciple. So I really like that
Mm.
because and I think this is something we should bring him on and ask him, like, traditionally, before Midjourney or Bing Creator, if I wanted to find these images, I would have to go to Google Images, find like a license for which is like free to use, and the whole process will take like at least a couple of hours just finding the right image. Most of them would have that watermark on top, so I can't even use it. But I'm guessing with Midjourney, just a couple of prompts, this probably would have been done in less than an hour. There's all these
Let's get
images that are
Swapnil on.
generated.
Let's talk about this. What's up, Swapnil? How you doing?
Yeah, great, great. I'm very honored to meet you all again.
Yeah, good to be here
Yeah.
after a while. Tell us more, bro. Tell us more about the AI generation part. We're very curious to know. What was that like?
So basically, while designing, I just Google various, Gurukul and all that, but it was all the anime type images, we can say. So it was
Yeah.
not a good quality images and pretty old school images of all guru in Gurukul and students, all that. So from there, I think कि ये try करते हैं. So after I tried once and I thought अरे ये तो it's the best image I can get. So I decided to go with Bing Creator,
Hmm,
and after that it just did.
nice.
So how much time did it take for you when you were like going through this, right? Uh, when you explored Mid Journey and to get these final images that you've solidified, how long did it take for you?
I think in the first iteration I didn't get the perfect image, but after iterating I think 4 or 5 times because I have to very clear with my prompts. If I only write the an Asian guru, it's just give a normal guru, but I want little bit I can say modern because in all that images I have included a little bit modern touch to the Guruji, like he has a tattoo on his hand and all of that. To give a like modern and the Asian culture mix have to be very clear. I think the third or fourth iteration of the prompt gave me the best result, and it took me around for the Gurukul image it a half an hour or 45 minutes.
Hmm,
I'm so happy to hear that because when he said half an hour to 45 minutes, it would have taken me at least like a day just trying to go through Google images
Yeah,
and finding an image that's even close to this and
yeah.
usable.
One, going through this, Janil, one thing I'm just thinking is these iterations is definitely
Hmm.
good seeing, but I think one thing I would have liked would be if these were like much bigger, if I was able to actually see with some annotations because it is a bit small. I'm not exactly able to see, or maybe I'm able to see at the top level, but probably could be bigger these sections. Yeah.
I think what I think Abhinav, I agree with him in the sense that to make it very easy to skim. So you've done a good job. Most people don't do this, by the way. They don't show their first iteration, final iteration, and the difference, actually explaining this was the issue with the first iteration. But if you do something before and after, and if you have, let's say, two images, and on the left side in the image, you
Mm,
annotate actually, like, hey, in this iteration, this was the issue. On the right side, this is the correct one, and you have a different color for each one. So it's all about presentation because what's happening is someone's just scrolling through this very quickly. So by presenting it in a way which makes it very easy for me to glance at a high level, like right now, I have to look at like final versions. Okay, hero section, cool. And then you say problems with the above iteration, right? So it's all there in the text and then the final solution. So I have to figure out all this myself, and that's because we took the time to read it in detail before we do this, by the way, live streams. But most likely the hiring manager, you have to put yourself in their shoes. They at least have like about 100 of these portfolios to kind of go through. So they're most likely just going to skim very quickly. So when someone is skimming like that, your target user, you want to leverage images in a way that attracts their attention so that they can go in. You still have your text, your body's amazing, is perfect. We're just talking about enhancing some of the images in a way where you can get that same information you're conveying in the text, but also a little bit from the image. Because if you hook them, then they're more likely going to actually spend
mm,
time and read the whole thing.
Hmm. I like this detail here, but I think you've downplayed it a little bit. Like for each of the headings, you've got a Hindi version of it. Like you've got Shresht Guru up here.
mm.
Something else here. I'm not able to.
Yeah, this the point was
Pathyakramu.
given with yeah.
Hmm.
This point was given by Bhupendra. He told me add that point to add a touch to it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Actually, very good point, which is given that it's for Sanskrit, probably you
Yeah.
could use more Sanskrit in the page than English. Or rather, the balance, like let's say right now the page is what, 5%, 10% Sanskrit, 80%, 90% Hindi. Yeah, it's a good suggestion. Yeah. I think you could probably play this up a little bit, make it more prominent. But yeah.
Another thing is at the end of it, you have a link says that you can play around with my Figma file here. I believe that there is a way. I mean, I think you can just embed your Figma prototype in there. So what I would recommend is instead of just having a link like you
Mm.
can play with my Figma link here, like you have at the end, just embed the whole prototype there. So it's like right there and there on the page. If someone wants to, they can kind of like zoom in and out and see. And what it does is it kind of gives a sneak peek. It's like, when you have a guest in your home, as soon as you open the door, and the first thing they see is like
Wow.
very like sneak peek view of your entire home before you open the entire door. That's exactly what's happening when you embed the Figma prototype directly in your Medium file, in your Medium case study. And then you can still have the link. So if they want to open it and go in detail, they can do it. But this is just another like eye popping detail that you can leverage.
Janil, you know what?
Yeah.
Like, personally, I love browsing designs just like this. Like, when I saw this, I was like, my dopamine was unlocked. I was like, oh, fuck, I want to go through this and I want to explore it like one by one. Um, Although I do see people don't
Yeah.
typically include their Figma files, like usually unless you're in an interview, you might show. But yeah, personally, just my personal preference. I love browsing stuff in 2D. Like so, instead of reading like this, just being able to explore. So I like that you included this, and agree with Jenny on the preview. Yeah, my suggestion for improvement, if I had to give something,
Mm.
would be that you can definitely include more Sanskrit in this, which is, I think
Yeah.
maybe the assumption you made is people have very less knowledge of Sanskrit right now. So you're targeting to an Indian, like a
Mm.
English speaking audience.
Indian.
But you could probably change that balance a little bit, like talk Sanskrit in a few places and then include the English version of it. Like it should almost be like,
Yeah.
because I do feel like people who are learning Sanskrit, it's not that they know zero, right? Unlike something like, let's say, maybe French or something. Actually, bad example, but when it comes to Sanskrit,
Mm.
I think most people that do want to learn it can know the script by default. Like they can read it and exactly know it. So I think would be good to include more Sanskrit here, given that it's perfect on theme. Yeah,
Like giving user both options, Sanskrit and
yeah. Either
English.
multilingual, like that's probably a good thing as well, which is you could probably do a multilingual page, which is like a separate version that it's completely Hindi. But what I'm mostly talking about is use Sanskrit more. While of course the challenge here is not everybody knows Sanskrit, so you
No.
can't 100% go Sanskrit, but can you at least go 10% Sanskrit, 20% Sanskrit, right? I think that would be an
You
interesting,
can say a mix of Sanskrit and English.
yeah, and without affecting the functionality. Like that's
Whether-
the design challenge here. Cool, man. Anything else to add, Jenny? I think I'm overall said
I
what
think
I'd
overall
like to.
good job. I think a few things to improve on definitely, but overall really good job, man.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm enjoying going through these iterations here. I think it just with
Um,
Medium, even like you can't zoom in Medium, right? So I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. For me, it
ah,
was a way better experience just browsing this like this after having read your case study. Uh, so my suggestion for folks, if you want to or if you're comfortable with including your Figma file, might be a good idea. Maybe you don't have to share your entire thing. But given that there's a very good chance that the person on the other end reading this is also a designer, I don't think it's weird to include Figma. I think it might be a good thing.
The question is, why would you not want to include it? Like, there's nothing proprietary. I mean, unless this was like a company project, I get it. You don't want to use a Figma file, but in case studies, you have nothing to lose. If anything, you just have an upside. You only have something to gain. Because what happens is when you share your Figma file, like, you know how Abhinav got so curious, like out of all the ones, I think this is the one where the Figma file was shared, and Abhinav went in and he kind of went down the rabbit hole to see what was going on. So he was able to see even more stuff that you probably couldn't convey all of it in Medium in your case study. So I would say definitely include your Figma file. So this way, manager or designer who was looking at it, they would most likely want to jump in. I think, Abhinav, the hesitation might come from the fact that if you share your Figma file, someone might judge like, oh, how has he organized the layers? How is
I can understand
she
why. I can understand why
stuff?
people might not want to. That's one reason. You might also be like, bro, somebody can easily steal this. Like, of course,
Yeah.
it takes a fucked up person to really do that. But I'm sure there is somebody out there who'll just take this and be like, oh, fuck, this is my case study now. This is my Figma file now. And I don't know. Of course, it'll catch up to them. But yeah, I can understand why hesitation and why don't everybody doesn't do this. Yeah. I think also with Figma files, you can go very, very deep in making it good, right? Like you might be like, fuck, oh man, I have to name all my layers now. Like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
I gotta name all my artboard. Like, not everybody cares about that. Like personally, even I don't name my layers. Rarely. Uh, but yeah, I can understand why you might not want to. Um,
But here's the reality: when you actually work in a company and you're actually employed by someone, and you have other designers on the team, this has been my experience working in the industry.
mhm.
None of my other colleagues care about how awesome I am at naming my layers, how awesome I am at like doing some. It's good if you can do it,
Yeah.
but the focus when you work at a company, even for Abhinav is an academy, is not like how awesome you are with the Figma tools. It's like, can you solve the problems the company is facing? And if you're able to solve the company problems, and that means that you don't name your layers, who cares? So, food for thought.
Yeah. Thanks, Swapnil. Thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Great work on this. Looking forward to future projects.
Okay. Yeah. One learning I have to share that
Hmm.
by doing this video conference, I have become more little bit confident in camera. Now I am little bit confident. So I am looking forward to upload my Loom video in next case study. So it
Mm.
is 10K has improved my communication over this video and all. I am a shy person, that's why I don't talk so much. So
Mm.
that's why I'm improving because of this.
Awesome, man. Keep going on that. Yeah. Excited.
Yeah,
For sure.
sure, sure. Thanks.
Thanks, Swapnil. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Abhinav, a quick question
Hmm.
from Himanshu. He says that he's from a medical background, but is considering about design. So, should he change his stream? What advice would you give there?
Difficult one, bro. Um,
I know.
because for you to have chosen medical, I don't know how much you're into that, and how big of a shift is it for you to just say no to that. Um, can you? Of course, you can. You can, right? Should you? That's a personal question. I think you should probably think about. Like, how serious are you about that shift? But my suggestion to you would be, if you have the time and if you want to if you want to take your time with the decision, right? You don't want to jump into it. At the very minimum, you should definitely try exploring Figma, right? So get so usually, let me actually okay, let me just say it this way. Usually the biggest challenge starting out is you have no clue. It's overload. That's level 1, crossing the overload. Level 2 is once you've crossed that overload, you start understanding, you start connecting the dots, right? So I would say definitely go up to level 2 or level 3 where you've checked out the resources, samajh mein aa raha hai, you're like, okay, I can see the path a little bit ahead. You even do Figma, so you're like, I don't hate doing this. Like, if you really hate using Figma, I don't think it's a good idea, right? Just becoming a designer. So try it out, right? What Janil said, the analogy earlier in the session, test drive. Like, what's your test drive for design? Definitely figure that out. Give it a couple of weeks. And if you think it's worth it, consider the switch. I will say though, career transitions are not easy. Like, I totally understand it's a very difficult thing to do. So take your time with it. The advantage that you have is there's a lot of free content available. So your test drive process becomes easier. But don't just stick to the content. Like, actually do stuff. Like, do Figma. Learn it, figure it out, make some stuff.
I think this is something I've learned, like, collaborating with Abhinav for the past couple of years, is the emphasis on doing experiments, small experiments that pretty much like have no downside, but just more upside if it works out. So, like, while you're still pursuing your medical field, right, there's nothing stopping you from going to a meetup in your local city, right? There's so many design events and meetups. Go there, talk to some designers, right? Maybe you have some connections, some friends who are actually working in the field. Ask them, what do they do? Look at what their Figma files and actually see that, okay, if you were to imagine yourself in their shoes and doing this like day in day out, do you like it, first of all? And a lot of times whenever I personally do this experiment, I get an idea like, yeah, this is not for me. Like, if I shadow a doctor and I see all this blood, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is not for me. I already know that.
Yeah. 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 I know people who exactly like that. They're like, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to do blood tests. Nah, this is not for me. I'm gonna have to dissect a frog. Like, this is even 11th, 12th. Nah, fuck it. Yeah, not for me. But yeah, for design, it's Figma. Like, if you actually enjoy doing things in Figma, if you actually get dopamine from the stuff you create, and you're like, fuck, what else can I create? Right? If you're really excited about that, that's a positive signal that you should keep moving forward. Yeah. All right. Here we go. We're gonna have one more. This one, here we go. Easy question, but the classic branding, city branding for New York, I heart NY. Super memorable. I'm sure you've seen this. Who created this in the 1970s? Who was the creator of this iconic branding for New York City? I think this is an easier question than the previous one because I definitely knew um, this. Okay, well, let's see who gets this one right. Switching to chat here. Paula Scher, Milton Glaser. Okay, okay. I see some people got it. We're seeing two different answers. The answer is it is Milton Glaser. You're right. Let me see who got this one.
Ashwini.
Yeah, Ashwini, you got this. Milton Glaser. I think you were the first. So definitely ping Hardik, a 10K Designers t-shirt to you on its way. Awesome. All right. Our final case study for today, we're going to check out Jatin's case study for WhatsApp reminders, a feature that he's worked on. Let's jump in here. So straight up, okay, what I like here is a point I want to point out is it starts with a very interesting story, right? It starts with, in fact, a conflict. So this is not what it should look like, which got me curious. Why not? What actually is the scene here? Hey, we have a meeting. Join in. No one. Okay, confusion, right? So I like that you started with conflict. Now I see a chat here, in fact, by Pavit. She says earlier we had talked about how the story is being built to present a case study or design process, right? So how exactly do you build this story? So typically you'll notice stories, one common way they start is at the start. Like, I started this and then I did this and then I came up with this. So you're building context and you're like linearly going. I like this approach here, which is Jatin starts with the conflict. So instead of starting with, here's my context, here's the problem, and here's the solution, he's directly started with, here's the problem. And Pavit's question here was, how can you build that emotional touch? The simple thing is, see if you can make it personal. right? So one of the things you're trying to optimize for is time spent with your case study. Like, there should be interesting details, so I want to look at it and spend more time. And usually making it personal somehow is the best way. So we have seen in past case studies people who've shown their own photographs of actual field research or something that they did. People have talked about their interests. You know, maybe Swapnil, let's say in the previous case study talking about Sanskrit, he made a very small thing saying, I am also interested in it. But he could have gone one step further and talked about, in the last 5 years, this is what I've been doing trying to learn Sanskrit. And finally, I realized that there was this problem. And that's how I got into this, right? So, personal, make it personal. A story, who is the character here? It's you. You are the character, right? That's why I say make it personal. And use that personal thing to get people interested and then, you know, immerse them into your work. The problem that I see though is reminders. That's the problem that's trying to be solved. Okay. My quick note here on as well, when I see the design process, typically people have a very similar design process. That's not a bad thing. Yes, there is an optimal way to do it, somewhat. Jenny, do you think it'd be good if people include also time spent in each, or you think that's kind of difficult to track? Um,
I think most folks, when they create their case study, no one is like a freelancer actually has that time widget running to track the time they're spending on the client work, and that's how they're getting paid. But for most designers, when they sit down to create their case studies, no one's tracking time. They have a rough idea.
hmm,
Spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So I think sometimes like it, unless it was a paid project, unless it was a freelance project, and you wanted to show that you can get work done quickly, I don't really see the benefit of saying that I finished this in 3 weeks or I finished this in 3 days. At the end of the day, have you created something that's meaningful? Like for example, here, like I see that for like the my process, right? It's first and then this problem analysis. Personally, I would prefer the problem analysis to come before the process, just because he's got a very good story. So right there and there, I want to read a little bit more about the problem. So I think that order should be flipped, in my opinion.
So this section up front, this
Yes.
process later.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Reminder apps.
And
You know,
another suggestion, folks,
yeah.
is whenever you're doing research, the thing is you're spending a lot of time doing this research, right? For example, in this case, you shared a Google form with a few friends and acquaintances, colleges, right? Awesome. Now, if you have a photo like with your friends in college, put a photo of that. Like, you know, like it doesn't have to be those exact people that you surveyed for this research, but it kind of gives a vibe and feel that, hey, look, I'm here in this photo with a lot of my college friends, and this is the type of people with whom I've done this kind of research. Because images speak volumes than words itself, right? So I would say do that. Another thing you could do is also put a screenshot of the form that you designed. And I would say that you could have spent at least 1 or 2 lines talking about how you designed that form, how you worded the question if you wanted to. Um, these are just opportunities to actually make all this hard work that you've done behind the scenes actually show it to people. This is one of the main things we show in the we actually talk about in the cohort, is like there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, like the way we design the story and everything. So me and Abhinav actually, in the entire 10K team, we actually show behind the scenes, and that's what we want all of you to do here, is show that behind the scenes.
I'm an issue. I'm not exactly understanding the problem statement. Because okay, I'll tell you what my confusion is. Right, let me think out loud.
Mm.
From here, the problem is that there's a lot of reminders, right? So
Mm.
okay, so these are people who are sending me reminders for stuff, but it's WhatsApp messages. So the problem is what? It's keeping track.
Should we have Jatin come on and explain?
Yeah, yeah. Let's do that. Okay. Um, let's get
And
Jatin.
this is a good thing, by the way, Jatin. Just a heads up. Like, whenever you have a case study and your friends or someone and you just send it to them to proofread or just get feedback, if at any point they are struggling or they are like not sure what the problem is, it's an opportunity to kind of rephrase some of the things to make it absolutely clear.
What's up, Jatin? Welcome to the stream. How's it going?
Abhinav. Hi, Jatin. How are you guys?
Good, man.
Pretty good, man.
So here's what I'm
So,
just thinking, right? So at least what I've been able to piece it together. The problem is that you have a lot of volume of messages on WhatsApp. In this volume of messages, some messages are reminders and they're more important than everything else. But they get lost in my messages. Some are read, some are unread, some are scrolled up. So your problem, so is roughly, have I got that right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And the solution here, are you exploring one solution or are you saying here are some possible solutions? Like, did you have a
So
solution in
basically,
mind already going in?
yeah. So in this, I basically had two solutions where one is the receiver can create a message, like convert a message into a reminder for themselves, and one was where the sender can send the reminder as a reminder itself, like the message as a reminder itself.
Okay.
So these two are the solutions that are proposed, and so this was like the clear hierarchy that was there was on the prioritization. So let's say now if I want to give the sender the ability to set it for everyone else, right?
Hmm.
So there is also a chance of spam, right? People might just end up spamming in groups and everything.
Hmm.
So that was one, and the other one was where without any of these, the receiver can just create a reminder for themselves if they
Got it.
find it important.
Got it. One suggestion here was you didn't really need personas, in my opinion. I
Yeah,
think personas, it kind of makes sense when you're doing a brand new kind of app, like from scratch. Either you're doing it from scratch, but typically when it comes to something like this, for an app like WhatsApp, um, you're pretty much designing it for anybody who uses WhatsApp, right? So you're not exactly designing it for these personas. It has to work for everyone. Um, but I guess you've used
yeah,
personas to communicate use cases. So that I
exactly.
see definitely there's some value there.
Yeah,
This is my personal preference. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it, but one of the reasons why you want to use persona is to evoke a strong emotion for that, strong emotion for the thing you're designing for. So in this case, for Yash and Rajesh, I know you've used the animated personas, like not real life photos. So I would say, if possible, try to see if you can find first like a actual stock real life photo, because the thing is, when I'm looking at that case study and I'm reading through it, this animated version does not create that emotion or that feel. Now if you're using these kind of illustrations on a website, that's a whole different story. That's a whole different, like, application. But for the case of persona, I would say if possible, actually use real photos.
yeah.
My suggestion, skip the persona. You don't need personas. These are use cases, right? So you can talk about it more as a use case. I understand why you've used these toy faces though. It just looks cooler. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really. I kind of did feel that given that you're designing for an app that I'm already familiar with, you could have directly kind of jumped in here. Um,
Yeah, so I just like even while I was doing my research, I just wanted to get a very clear idea whether this is even a problem for people.
hmm,
So that's
Hmm.
what I like. While reading the case study, people might assume that okay, this is not that big of a problem. I do have reminders on my phone, and nowadays people
Hmm.
just open the app, they type in, and then it's very easy. But just to see if like people would even use it. So what are those needs and what are the pain points that I'm trying to address?
Hmm.
So just for that.
mhm.
Couple more things. I would say these are opportunities for improvement. because we want you to like really like have the best version out there when you're going for interviews and stuff. So you've broken it down step by step. Like here's a visual walkthrough of my solution. Then there's a lot of different steps, right? So the presentation, I think, could definitely use a couple more iterations, just the design of it. For example, you have bullet points and you have like these small one, two numbers, right? So I have to like go through each one, read a lot of text. So this is where I feel like you could have easily made like a GIF or a video walkthrough. So to show me the whole interaction in one step, like this whole functionality that's step by step. If I had seen a quick 10-15 second GIF or a video, I would have known what you're trying to say. And then I can read the detail part, which is good.
So somewhere here.
I do like I like that you have annotations in the images. Like so, very quickly, if I'm skimming through, I know exactly what I am looking at. So that's a good stuff. But this is just some other things I would say to kind of make it very easy to skim through.
Yep, got it.
And final thing would be in a lot of these sections, you've done a good job of explaining the feature, what it does, and but I want to remind you that this is not necessarily like a feature walkthrough, but I would have loved to see a little bit more like I designed it because this. Like I understand WhatsApp already has a UI, already has a function, and a lot of stuff is figured out. Absolutely. Right. But then the way you organize the layout, the way you organize the sequence, like I want to see a little bit more design decisions.
Yep,
Like I decided to add a timer because of this, right? So like the way you phrase it makes a big difference, right? For example, as mentioned about the receiver can now select a time. So now this is more of like explaining like a feature or functionality. But if we rephrase it, I added or I designed a timer functionality because, and then your reasoning behind it. So now we're getting more into the design decisions.
yep.
Yeah, if I had to
So,
synthesize what Janil said in a slightly different way, definitely I would drop these, like these 05 and this thing. Like it was a bit distracting. I was like, what is that exactly? So just from a visual perspective, I would probably drop these numbers here. Outside of that, I would probably make these images way bigger. So for example, right now, uh, it does seem like it's blurred when I go into full detail. So one thing you like, this is a very easy thing you could do right after the case study, right after this would be export these in a higher quality. So like at 2x. Also, you'll notice this is a really small thing, but in this export, your shadow is getting cut at the bottom here, right? That's just a small note here. So you could export this at 2x, check out the shadow thing so it doesn't get cut. Of course, you'll have to compress the image because medium case studies sometimes get really heavy when you have like huge images. But in terms of medium, they do have a feature where you can make this more full width, right? You can make this image go wider, right? So given that it's such a tight screenshot, like there's so many details in it, like make your images as big as possible. Right? That would be one suggestion here.
yep,
And I think Abhinav, I
definitely.
just found out like a reason why it took you a little bit longer to figure out what exactly is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if you scroll down all the way at the bottom where he has the screenshots
Mm-hmm.
and you expand that image and you see that in an instant, it's very clear like what he's trying to do.
Yeah, Jatin, you should have put this at the top, bro. Actually, uh,
And
because
instead of
this
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 five, images,
shows the
make
problem.
one.
I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, this is chaotic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like instead of those 5 images at the bottom, I would have just picked one, make it big, use annotation like you've done before, and explain like, hey, look, in this IXDA VIT, let's pick that one. The reminder shows up at the top right away. So out of all the images, I mean, sorry, out of all the text you're getting, this one has a reminder thing at the top, which is like, hey, look, ignore everything else, focus on this one. So I think if you have that as your cover image, um, then that explains like what you're trying to do. I think what you have currently as your cover image right now is more of the problem, but usually what you want to have in the cover image is more of your solution.
yeah, got that.
Overall,
Yep,
Jatin, um, Can you tell me a little bit more about your experience with design, like as of writing this case study?
Yeah, so this was my first case study, and like the visuals over here were already set up for me, right? I had like a design system that I had to go with.
Yeah.
So visuals was like my last priority, and I started off with research. So this was a problem that I realized in like day-to-day events, and then I went to my friends. I talked to them if this is really a problem. We figured it out, and then I did a bit more research, like with the Google form and everything, and then I noted down what all do I need to solve, and then there were a lot of apps. So one funny thing is, I delayed it for like quite a few months, and then I sat down one day and I did it in like 5 days. So
Mm.
after I like, completed writing about it, then I found out that also Slack also does this. Slack also has like a feature where you can send reminders.
Okay.
So I think since this was my first one, I lacked at a few places where like I could have done better.
Hmm.
And so yeah, and this was majorly based on like research and problem solving solely because visuals were like quite easy to do that over here.
Yeah. Cool. Got it.
Overall, good effort, man. Good effort. I think with some of these changes that we talked about, and you put in that iteration, this is going to be banger. So
And what you
good
can
job.
expect, by the way, when you do, uh, eventually when you do talk about this in interviews, right? This particular case study is you will probably be grilled a lot on, is your solution actually a solution, right?
Yeah.
If you were interviewing, like let's say on Academy or whatever, I would ask you, I would grill you a lot on, you made the solution, but does it actually solve? And again, that's a slightly subjective thing, right? Because to you, having done this case study, obviously you want to believe that it does solve. Why, right? It's a thing. But the thing I would have grilled a lot on is, just let me just say it in a simpler way. Let's say in this screenshot, right? This is your problem. What these folks are doing is they're bringing up the message by replying and making a reminder. So they're manually making reminders. Let's say the feature did exist. They would still manually have to make reminders, but now with more steps involved, right? So it can be argued that even after implementing, it doesn't really solve the problem. And then from the user perspective, right? Let's say instead of receiving this message saying reminder, they receive this message that says reminder. In the end, it's still this though. Like with or without the feature, my WhatsApp will still look like this.
Yeah.
So it could be argued that okay, it does not exactly solve, right? So for an interview, definitely be prepared for that kind of grilling, and
Yeah. I mean,
be open to it in the sense that okay, it does in some cases. Here are some cases it does not. Like maybe there is a solution to this, but it's hard to find one solution that works for all. There are always trade-offs when it comes to solutions like this. Another challenge when it comes to WhatsApp, and this is for anybody who wants to attempt something WhatsApp related, is WhatsApp is a universal messenger. It's for every human on the planet. Right? It's difficult to design for something that works for every human on the planet. But the
yeah.
advantage is it's conceptual. So definitely you'll have to talk about trade-offs of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So I've been in that situation as well. Like I
Hmm.
was getting interviewed at the company, and then I mean, the design head over there who was interviewing me, it was actually my third round. And then we sat down for around 1.5 hour discussing if this could be done better. And then I got a lot of feedback. And then I was also planning on like, if I get like a little more time, I was also planning on like making a screen where I show the differentiation between a reminder notification and a normal message notification.
Mm.
So that, and then I recently shared this case study with someone working at WhatsApp who was an alumni from my college, and I asked them to just give it a read and like share feedback. So they also commented on this thing that this feature was discussed at what like in their internal hackathons a few years ago, and then whatever the takeaways they shared it with me. So
Mm.
I am trying to improve it better once I like
Yeah.
get a little bit of
you
time.
should put that anonymous quote. Like, don't mention your friend, but just put an anonymous quote that shared it with a WhatsApp employee. This is the feedback I got. Um, it's stuff like that, man.
It shows that at least, at the very least, you either have access that you were able to reach out to them, or you have the hustle that you're able to figure it out, right? Both positive things. I would definitely include that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make those changes.
And sometimes I feel like, by the way, a quick tip when someone grills you on this, right? Like, for example, Robin was grilling you on what is the use case for this. See, the thing is, you're there in front of him to showcase your design abilities, your way to think and problem solve.
Yeah,
So, and this is, by the way, this is some of the stuff that we cover in the cohort. Like, how do you tackle situations like this, right? Because if you start into getting an argument with him, like a discussion battle. It's a discussion of opinions, right? We don't want to get into that. So instead, what I would do in that case is like, you know what, Abhinav, you're right. I actually just did this case study as a way to explore the entire design process, test my own skills. You're right. Now, would you like me to focus maybe on some of the process stuff that I did rather than the solution? And I would wait for him. He's like, yeah, sure. So awesome. So now I've just navigated the conversation away. Or I could be like, can I show you something else? Or do you want to give me a problem statement where I can showcase my ability? So pivoting some of these like tricky conversations is very, very important.
yeah, got that. Yeah,
Cool, man. Thanks, Jatin. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
thank you
And
so
yeah,
much, guys. Thank you so
best of luck
much.
with some more interviews.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
See ya.
have a great day.
You too.
Yeah, bye bye.
So, with that, Jenny, we've come to the end of our session for today. Um, we do have one more question, one more quiz question. So, we'll do that. And then, folks, oh, did I show the answer by accident while screen sharing right now? Did you
Let's
just.
see.
Oh, fuck. I think I leaked it by accident. I didn't realize I was screen sharing. Folks, oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
I did leak it. Folks, so sorry. We don't have a question for today. I accidentally leaked the answers. Joy, bro, feedback for you. I think I mentioned in the previous session. We need a blank slide between these. Although in this case, it was definitely my bad. So I admit. Um, all right, folks, with that, we come to the end of this session. Any questions? We'll answer it in the chat right now, right? We'll take another couple of minutes to answer that, and then we maybe wrap up for today. All right. Dhananjay says Piaggio. Yes, Dhananjay, Piaggio. I did leak it by accident, so my bad on that. Nishank says, Hardik bro, t-shirt shipping when bro? Hardik bro, I agree with Nishank here. I think it's taking too much. I think you should really follow up and make it happen. Okay. Kudos to everybody who presented today. Really excited about it. Grusha, Manisha, Swapnil, Jatin. Jenny, I think we'll wrap up for today. But
Yeah.
one final thing I want to talk about is, okay, this is a little bit more personal, but and maybe a little bit tangential. But you and I, Jenny, we are, a good way into our career. Like, not crazy. That yeah, we're about a decade in roughly, around that amount. As of now, you and I, we are getting a little bit more into like content creation and stuff. Have been doing it. You're kind of active
Yeah.
on LinkedIn. Do you have something to share around LinkedIn, given that you're kind of active, for folks who are, working on their case studies, want to do more? How should they use LinkedIn? I don't think anybody really tells them how to do it. It's just one day you sign up, you have your profile, but then what's next?
So I'm blanking out on this person's name. This is if you remember, let me know because then I can actually look that up and screen share right now
Mhm.
or LinkedIn. One of our cohort members did a case study on cred, right? And it blew up on LinkedIn. And it blew up so much that actually the head of design at cred tagged some of their other product partners that, hey, check out this feature, right?
Mhm.
So I feel that LinkedIn is a really good way to kind of share your work. I actually every day, like I have, Monday to Friday, I have like a post that goes out. Um, and it's more about visibility. Like this is something that took a long time for me to understand. Like if you want to work in the corporate game and you want to work at a company for some time, it's all happens in the DM. Like this is very clear in Twitter, but it's also true on LinkedIn. When you post certain kind of content, I see a lot of heads of design or VP of design, design manager, like sending me connection requests or following me. So essentially, the reason why you're putting in this effort is that when you do want a job, these people are following you or are connected with you. So all you have to do is say that, hey Shirley, just want to let you know I saw that you're hiring for this post. Here's my portfolio. Would love to have a chat. You're going to be in the front of the queue. That's why you're putting in this work. And rather than focusing on what is the best way to game the algo or this or that, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that if you've done a case study, put it out there. We've had someone who put a case study out there for Tanmay Bhatt, and so many people tagged Tanmay Bhatt, like, oh my God, this is awesome. Tanmay Bhatt actually looked at it. So, point being is publish your work. And the benefit of LinkedIn, I would say, is that in my experience of on Twitter, what happens is people will have like, what is it called? Ratio down or something? Like
You're
people
trying to
will just like,
cancel you or make a joke
yeah,
about you or
yeah,
put you
they'll
down
try to
in
be
some way.
sarcastic joke. On LinkedIn, the good news is that when you post some work, people usually are more supportive. They're not going to do it. And the reason they're not going to try to take you down is because their employers are watching. Like there's not anonymous accounts on LinkedIn. So if, I post something, then my employer is going to see that too. So usually people for the most part are cordial. So I would say definitely try posting some work there. And who knows, maybe somebody might contact you some freelance opportunities or something. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you still don't believe in the power, here's something that will blow your mind away. Guess how me and Abhinav met? Via LinkedIn.
We're LinkedIn. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I didn't even realize that. I was like, as soon as you said that, I was like, yeah, we met via cold DM because you but then I was like, wait, it was on LinkedIn. That is actually where the magic happened. Yeah. Cool, folks. We're gonna wrap up for today. Few questions I see here. Yeah, Jenny, you saying something?
Now, I was going to say, folks, definitely check out our open Discord community. We just posted the link in the chat. So if you're not a member, definitely join that and join this awesome, amazing experience that we have there.
Yeah. And some questions here. Wadney says, how often do you do this? Wadney, we have a few more episodes left. We've been doing this. This is episode 4. I think we will have a total of maybe 7 episodes. So leading up to Christmas. So we have a few more. These happen every Friday at the same time. If you would like to sign up for this, you can check out this here. Right up here. I'm going to share that link that I just showed you in the chat as well. Test account, you did win a t-shirt. Reach out to Hardik. You can either just join the open Discord community and just DM him or just tag him there. Or in this chat, I think he shared his username, so you can talk about that. Message from Anmol saying, recently I put out a Figma art of the humane AI and it was noticed by the humane CEO. Yeah, folks, this happens all the time. And congrats on that, by the way, Anmol. Tweet your work, share it on LinkedIn, because it does feel like, the corporate world or this world of startups, this world of companies trying to do this crazy stuff. It seems like it's so far away, especially if you're not in the industry already. But it's not so far away, just 2 screens away, your screen and the other person's screen, right? So how do you increase your chances of getting discovered? You have to really put yourself out there. And again, this sounds like cliche advice, but it's harder than you might think. Because the minute you start thinking about putting yourself out there, you're like, what do I say? Right? And if you've not done any design work, you're like, oh, I have nothing to share because I've not actually made something. So, by the way, if you're looking to enroll in the cohort as well, just a reminder, we have a few more weeks till the applications are open. That's 10kdesigners.com. You can go check that out. But we'll see you next Friday. Thanks a lot for joining. Keep designing.
Thank you.